Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf. Pesachim Lamed Hey, we are at the Mishnah, around 8 lines from the top of the Amid. Says the Mishnah, Elu Dvarim, we're accustomed to generally having matas made from wheat. However, you can use any of the chameshes minedogan to produce matzah. Says the Mishnah, Elu Dvarim, these are the materials, these are the grains, she'adam yoytze behen, hidei chavasa Pesach, that a person may use to produce his matzah, to be used for that first night of Pesach, for matzah's mitzvah. Bechitim, he can make his matzah with wheat, b'sa'urim, barley, b'kusman, spelt, b'shifan, rye, b'shua, with oats. V'yoytzim b'dmai. And a person could be yoytze his mitzvah using produce purchased from Amaretz, in which case there's a uncertainty as to the status, whether the Amaretz is separated from Mr. Maestris. And you can be yoytze with that as well, even though midrabanan you meant to separate the extra to Mr. Maestris, but even if he hadn't done so, you can be yoytze using that material. Uva Maser Rishon Shnetos Rumasai. So the Maser Rishon, which belongs to the Levi, where the Truma Smaiser, which is meant to go from the Levi to the Kohen, has been separated, you can use that type of grain. Uva Maser Sheni v'Hegdish Shenivdu. And you can use Maser Sheni or Hegdish, which was redeemed and is now considered Chulin. V'Kayhanim, they can use B'chalo B'Truma. So the portion of dough given to the Kohen, the Truma, that's okay for the Kohen, but as Rashi will tell us, the Yisrael cannot make his matzah from Chal and Truma, which is also for the Yisrael to consume. So this is the checklist. We have the 5 minei dagan, the wheat, the barley, etc., and all these different types, Dmai, Maser Rishon, things which are considered to be edible. Aval, now we're going to have a list of items unsuitable for the matzah. Aval tevel, you can't use tevel, outright tevel, which is asur, v'libi Maser Rishon, shelo nitl trumasai, nor Maser Rishon. In which case the truma smaiser, 10% of that Maser Rishon, which belongs to the kohen, had not been separated. V'libi Maser Sheni v'Hegdish, shelo niftu. So if they weren't redeemed, now they're asur and can't be used for matzah. Continues the Mishnah. Chalis hatoida. So we know that a korban toida has different types of chalis, actually 4 different types. 3 are of the matzah variety, the 4th type is actually going to be chametz. Now, can a person use the bread made for the toida, which is the matzah variety, obviously, can use that for matzah's mitzvah? Urkiki nazar, a different type of bread made for the nazar, and it was designated to be used for the korban, can it be used for the matzah's mitzvah? Says the Mishnah, depends. Also, if he produces for his own personal use, he wanted to bring a korban toida, and he produced these breads for that purpose. He can't be yoytze for matzah's mitzvah. Well, will tell us because it was not watched l'shem matzah's mitzvah. Also, however, if he did it to sell commercially, yoytze behen, you can be yoytze with them because, as the Gemara will tell us, initially this is what he had in mind. Any leftovers will be used for my own personal use. Let's take a look at Rashi here. So 10 lines from the top of the Amid, Masnissen. Elu dvarim she'adam yoytze ben yechavasa, mishum choyvas matzah b'layla rishona. We're referring obviously to the first night, where there's a choyva, there's a mitzvah. Shumu choyv lechal matzah, k'dechsiv erev techul matzahs. So the chiddush of the Mishnah is you can use all these types of grains, wheat, barley, etc. The Gemara will tell us because the key is, does it have chametz potential? And if it can become chametz, then it can be used for matzah. Matzah is the flip side of chametz. So all these different types of grains, shibbolei shul, yoina, shibbolei sha'asu kitzon of shul, it's called a shibbolei shul because the kernel it looks like the tail of a fox. So shibbolei shul is referring to oats. Generally we're accustomed to eating matzah of wheat, but for people who are intolerant, wheat intolerant or gluten intolerant, for many years they had a very difficult time being gate to the mitzvah's matzah. So there's a good yid in England, or a Kastenbaum, tremendous mazakas Ravim. So he worked on this thing, and he was able to accomplish, he was able to commercially produce oat matzahs. In fact, there was a story that he once had to deal with a farmer, I think it was in Scotland. So that fellow's oat field was very unique because it had a very low gluten content, or perhaps no gluten content at all, which was very rare and unique. And he made a deal to cut to harvest his produce for the sake of the matzah. and that area is very rainy. It's raining all the time, and of course, once the grain becomes fully ripe and dried up, it can't get wet. There's a concern of chametz. So in any case, they appointed a certain day, Monday. They're going to go harvest the oats, and that day, the weather forecast forecasted heavy rains. So they went out there to cut the grain and daven that Hashem keep the rain up there. And they were cutting at a frenzy. They were just cutting and cutting. And as soon as the last bit of oat went straight into the silo and they closed it up, sealed the silo, boom, started raining. It's tremendous out of the Shmaya. So he was tremendous Mzakas Rabbin. Today it's commercially available, the oat matzahs and spelt matzahs. So all these chamishas mina dagan really kash l'chatchila. So we have the wheat, we have the barley, which is by the shul, which is the oat. Shifoin is the shigla, which is rye. So those are the chamishas mina dagan. Continues the Rashi. Yotzim b'dmai tvuha nilkechas ma'aretz, purchased from ma'aretz v'nikres dmai. Dmai, some say, means damai. What is this? There's a suffix isra, suffix la isra. We don't know whether he took ma'is. Chacham obligated want to separate the ma'isrus misafik. Now, if he turned it into matzah without prior separation of the ma'isrus, he's still going to be yotze. The Gemara will give us the reason for this. Matzah rishon, this is the portion shel Levim, belongs to Levim. Shenitu trumasai, trumas masa l'kain. So a tenth of that goes to the kain. U'makan ve'elach masa mutal zarim. And going forward, that maser is mutal zarim. V'kahana b'chalo b'truma. They can use chal and truma, but not a Yisrael. Aval Yisrael b'truma loy. What's wrong with that? K'di yolav l'kaman. The Gemara will tell us, lo yistoichel olav chametz, shivas yom toichel olav matzis. The pasuk connects the isser of chametz to the mitzvah of matzah. That indicates that the only thing which is suitable and fit for making of matzah is something which only has a potential isser of chametz. But if there's any other isser attached to it as well, it won't work for matzah. So if there's no isser of chametz, just another isser, let's say truma or challah, so since it doesn't have the isser of chametz, only truma and challah, it won't work for matzah. So matzah needs to be a flip side of chametz. Misha ein muzar al chimutza elam shum chametz. Something, a material where you have the isser chametz on it, if it becomes chametz, then yeah, ata yoytze bo yidei chavis matzah, you can use it for matzah. Yotzeh as opposed to these materials, she'asar machmas isser acher, which are asar on another count, on account of the fact that it's chal and truma, which is asar Yisrael. So, in order to use something for matzah, it needs to be something which only has the isser chametz, but something which is already asar on account of something else, and not on account of chametz, that cannot be used for matzah. Continues Rashi, v'lo b'matzah she'ein chutz l'Yerushalayim. Also la'atzmi. This is going to the speaking about the lechem of the carbon. So if he produced it for his own purpose, lechem toidev v'nazir, ein yoytze behen. So there's a gersa l'shem toidev v'nazir. He did it l'shem for the purpose of the carbon, so you can't use it. And yoytze behen afilu shachat hazeh v'chalein, even if it's prior to shchita of the carbon. V'lo yikar Hashem aleim, ela she'asan l'das kein. He hadn't yet labeled them. Okay, this is a kadosh l'shem toidev. No, he simply produced it, baked it for this purpose. V'tam farish gemara, the Gemara will give us the reason. So that's if he did it for his own personal use. But limka b'shuk, l'tzorche lachmi toidu nazirus. So if he produced it, mass produced it for the sake of the public use, for their karbanis, yoytze ben can use it for the matzahs mitzvah. Imlei machalen, if there was some left over. V'tam farish gemara. Continues the Gemara. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, kusmin min chitin. So this was one of the types of grains mentioned in the Mishnah, kusmin. It's a type of chitin. It's from the wheat species. Shiboyle shul v'shifain. Oats and barley, oats and rye, min sern. That's from the barley variety. What is enough kamina? Rashi explains, for the sake of truma, we know that truma is meant to be separate min al mina. So you take one banana from the other bananas, or one apple from the other apples, but you can't take an apple on account of a banana. So when it comes to different types of grain, you're meant to know two categories. There is the wheat category, which includes spelt as well. Then you have the barley category, which includes oats and rye. So the chitim and the kusmin interact. You can take truma from one on the other. And likewise, when it comes to the barley, oats and rye, which are considered to be the same type. Kusmin, what is that? Gulba. That's spelt. Shifon, that's dishra, Y. Shibili shul. Shvili tala, that's the oats. And shvili are the kernels, which ta'ala look like the reminiscent of a foxtail. Fine. Honey, so only these types of grain can be used for the matzah making procedure. But not rice and millet. Why? Why specifically these types of grain? Omar Rabbi Shimon Melakish v'chein Tana, Devei Rabbi Shmuel v'chein Tana, Devei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Amakra. Lo yiseichel olav chametz, shivas yamim teichel olav matzahs. So the pasuk relates one to the other. They're interdependent. Don't eat chametz, eat matzah. Apparently we're speaking about the same type of grain. Dvar hamabayim l'dei chimetz. Things which can turn into chametz. Adam yoytze behen dechavasav matzah. A person can use them for matzah. If you make sure they're not chametz and they're matzah, then he can use them. Yatsu eila, as opposed to these items, the oiraz, the doichan, the rice, the millet, she'em boyin l'dei chimetz. They don't come to chimetz. They will not turn into chametz. Ela de sirachin. If you leave them around, they spoil. But they don't become leaven. They don't become chametz. So since they don't have chametz potential, they can't be used for matzah as well. It says, Masnis and the loik Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri. Apparently our Mishnah is not in line with Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri, the Amar Oirez min Daganhu. He holds that rice is considered a Dagan variety. It is equated with the other types of grain. The wheat, the barley. V'chayovin al chimutzei karis. And should it become chametz, a person liable to karis, it's considered like any other grain, like the wheat and the barley. And therefore, according to him, you can go ahead and use it for matzah. He says you can't go ahead and eat a cooked dish made from rice and millet because it will come chametz. It will become chametz. The question is, what does shekarav lahachmetz mean? Shekarav lahachmetz means the kadum machmetz. It means it's very close to becoming chametz. It can easily turn into chametz. So don't cook it up. It might turn into chametz. And it can actually reach the high level, the high quality chametz, the proper chametz, just like any other grain. He didn't mean to say that it can become proper chametz. It's karev lahachmetz havi. It will come close to becoming chametz. Chametz gomer lehavi, but proper chametz it won't become. It's like a deficient chametz, like an inferior chametz, like the Gemara calls it later, chametz nuksha. In which case there's no kares, it's a lav. But even he agrees that oiras and doichen don't have a true chametz potential. And if that's the case, you can't use it for matzah, right? So if it can become proper chametz, then it has the chametz potential. It can be kosher for matzah. But otherwise, if it's always going to be it's quasi chametz, that won't be kosher for matzah. So which way is it? Tashma desanya. Omar Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri. Oiriz min daganu. So he himself says that oiriz is a proper min dagan. V'chayovin al chimutzei kares. It's considered to be a proper grain, and one is chayiv kares if he eats it in a state of chametz. V'adam yotzei by yidei chavasu Pesach. So clear, Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri holds that oiriz v'doichen are considered like proper grains, like the chitim and soir, no less than that, and can become proper chametz, and can be used for matzah as well. V'chein haya Rabbi Yehuda ben Nuri Omer. He would add one more thing. Kramis, some type of grain, chayeves b'chala. So if a person makes a dough from this grain, although when it comes to the halachas of challah, it works with the same parameters as the lechem and the lechem oini, by chametz and by matzah. So he holds that this krumis is also a certain type of grain and conforms to the status, to the guidelines, is considered to be lechem. My krumis, what exactly is this? Amabaya shitzanisa. My shitzanisa, what is that? Amapapa shitzanisa is a certain type of grain, the mishtakcha beini kalanisa, which is found amongst the poppy seeds. Okay, so conclusion, Reb Machlekes, according to the Chachamim, we learn from the pasuk le'seichel of chametz shivas yom techel of matzis, that in order for something to be kosher for matzah, it has to be the flip side of chametz. It has to have the potential to become true chametz. So according to the Chacham, only applies to the 5 primary grain: the wheat, barley, rye, spelt, and oat. According to Rabbi Yehuda, we add the oiras, and according to some Mefarshim, the doichan as well. Amar Rabba bar Bachana Amar Shlokish. Yisa shenei loisha b'yayim Hashem and v'dvash. You have a dough which was made using wine, oil, or honey. So Rashi says there's no water, just this fruit juice. Ein chayav nalchimot zakaris. It's not subject to karis, because it's not going to become properly chametz. Yosef Rav Papa, Rav Huna Breda Vishua Kamed Ravidi. So at this point, we don't really know the reason for this. Why is there no karis for its chimutz? At this point, the Gemara figured, practically speaking, technically, it can become chametz. So why is there no karis? Yosef Rav Papa, Rav Huna Breda Vishua. So Rav Papa and Rav Huna Vishua was sitting with Talmidim, they were sitting in front of Kamed Rav Ida bar Avin. So he was their Rebbe. V'yosef Rav Adi bar Avin v'kamanavnim. And Rav Ida bar Avin was sitting and he was dozing off. So the Talmidim took the opportunity and began a conversation. Amalei Rav Huna Breda Vishua Rav Papa. So he turned to Rav Papa and he said like this: my Talmid is shlakish. What is the reason for a shlakish? Exempting one from karis. When eating this dough which was produced using wine, oil, or honey. Amalei, so Rav Papa responded, the Amakra, the pasuk says that chametz and matzah are related. Lo seichel of chametz, the pasuk continues, shivas yom teichel of matzos, which indicates as follows: Dvarim she'adam yoytze behen idei chavasa b'matzah. Things which a person can be yoytze his mitzvah of matzah with. So these types of grains which are kosher from matzah. Chayav al chimutei kares. If it would become chametz, he's chayav kares. So just as the Gemara earlier derived matzah from chametz, right? Something which has chametz potential can be used for matzah. We'll do the same thing in the reverse. Something which is suitable for matzah's mitzvah, if that very thing should become chametz, kares is connected to that. Is it inish of kares? But this thing here, this item here, which was produced using fruit juice, wine, oil, etc., in which case a person cannot use it for his choivas matzah. Why not? The havili matzah shir, it's a rich matzah. Rashi says, "V'rachmana omar lechem oini." It has to be a poor man's bread. It has to be just bread and water, flour and water. So if it has these additional ingredients, it has fruit juice, it's called matzah shira, and cannot be used for his mitzvahs matzah. Therefore, ein chayoven al chimutz kares. Even should it become chametz, there's no issa kares, there's no inish kares for eating it. So very simple. Just as matzah is learned from chametz, chametz is learned from matzah. So this was Rav Papa's response. Eisvei Rav Huna Breda V'shua Rav Papa. So Rav Huna challenged him. He says like this: we learned in a brisa, himcho v'gamay. Should a person take bread or something and liquefy it and dilute it? Himcho v'gamay, and then he swallowed it. Im chametzu. If there was chametz onish kares, he gets kares. It's considered to be an achila of kares. The Gemara in Chulin actually learns that the pasuk v'hanefesh comes to teach us even drinking the issur is considered to be like eating it. So if this is chametz, he's chayiv. V'matzahu ein adam yotzei idei chavasa Pesach. But if he took this matzah and liquefied it, mixed it with water, and drank it, it's not yotzei's mitzvah. Rashi says, because lav derech achila ka'achila. It's not derech achila. It's not yotzei mitzvah al achila as matzah. Now, let's take a close look at this. Look, in this case, this liquid grain is not suitable for mitzvah's matzah. And still, no, we say that if he eats it in its chametz form, he gets curse. And you just told me that chametz is dependent on matzah. This thing is not suitable, it's not right for matzah. So why is there curse for the chimutz? Apparently you can't connect one to the other. So in the meantime, Rav Yehuda bar Avin woke up and he overheard part of this conversation. Amar Lu, so he responded to them, Adartik, youngsters, Hainu time the Rish Lakish. You're looking for Rish Lakish's reason? Why the dough produced using wine, oil, or honey does not result in kares if it's chametz? Not because we learn it from matzah. The kasha that you asked is a very good kasha. Apparently you can't really connect the two things. Rather, Hainu time the Rish Lakish, the reason is like this. Because wine, oil, and honey is considered meiperos. Meiperos ain't machmitzim. They can't produce proper chametz. Rashi learns that it's going to produce an inferior variety of chametz nuksha, in which case is allowed. But kares is only on true chametz, and that will not result when you merely have meiperos mixed in to the flour. Okay, so again, in summary, we had the Chameshis Minei Dagan, according to Chachamim, and according to Rabbi Yochanan Nuri, even the Eires V'Doichem, from which you can make matzah. The Gemara says only these varieties, but not anything else, because the pasuk seems to connect. The pasuk puts chametz and matzah in the same pasuk, and that teaches us that one is dependent on the other. A material that has chametz potential can be used for matzah, but not anything else. And based on that, the Gemara suggested, Rav Papa suggested, perhaps we'll do a limud in the reverse as well. Only something which is roy from matzah, will there be curse upon the chimutz? So chametz is dependent on matzah. And Rav Yehuda bar Avin negated it. He said, no, it doesn't apply in this case. Rather, the reason why Rish Lakish exempts this dough which was produced by meiperos, because, very simply, meiperos, ein machmitzin, they don't produce proper chametz, and therefore there's no chametz. Continues the Gemara. Yoytze b'dmai b'ma'aser rishon, the Mishnah says you can use the dmai for mitzvahs matzah. Says the Gemara, dmai, haloi chazile, it's not right for him. It's aser. Now something which is aser, not on account of the chametz, rather due to an additional iser, that can't be used for matzah. As Rashi brought earlier, the Gemara is going to bring it later. In addition to that, says Rashi, there's a concept called mitzvah ba ba'avera. If a person has to commit an avera to get to a mitzvah, not going to be yotze that mitzvah. So how can he eat something which is asur ba'achila? Chachamim said, well, we're concerned perhaps there was no ma'isa separated, purchased from the Amoritz. There's a suffix iser. So how can that be used for matzah's mitzvah? How can it be yotze with this type of matzah? Halei chazilei. Says the Gemara, there is a way out. There is some allowance to eat even demai. A poor person, Chacham allowed him to eat demai. So any person has that ability. Kivan the iboy, if a person should wish, mafkir nichse, to be mafkir nechasim, give away all his assets, havi, now he turns into an ani. V'oichel demai, and he can eat demai. Hashtanami chazile. So since we find that concept, that a person who's an ani, or really any person, could turn himself into an ani and eat demai, so apparently Rashi says it's only a chumah d'Rabbanan, which was suspended in the case of necessity of an ani, and therefore hashtanami chazle here as well. Although he's still a wealthy fellow, he's not an ani. But should he eat this matzah, which was demai? But the evidence is yaitse. Tesis learns even l'chatchila. Tesis says that achilas matzah is called achilas anius. It's a poor man's meal. So even l'chatchila, Tesis says you can go ahead and consume matzah of demai. Rashi learns this, but the Yevid, since it's only a chumrah d'Rabbanan, because roiv ami'aretz ama'aser, so but the Yevid is yotze. The Snan, as we learned, ma'achilin es aniyim demai. We can feed poor people demai. So aniyim who are going to collect their food from the bali bativ, they don't have to be makpid, who's the ma'aser, who's not going to be ma'aser. They can just take that food and eat it. As achsanya demai, you can feed the troops, the Jewish troops, who need to be supported by the members of the city, they too are considered aniyim and can be fed d'mai. V'amar Rav Huna, Tana, b'sham oimrim ein machilin, es aniyim d'mai, es achsan d'mai, b'sham hold there's no such allowance, b'sil oimrim machilin, you can. Let's take a look at Rashi up on top. It says Rashi on the first line of the Amud d'mai ha'lechazile. D'mai is unsuitable, it's also, Rabbeinu Kamad, the Gemara will tell us soon, Mishi Yisuri Mishum Bal Teichel Chametz Levade. Any material which carries within it merely a chametz potential, an isser chametz, but no other isser involved. So that material is suitable for matzah. Ata yoytze b'lishum matzah. Yotze, as opposed to Mishi Yesh Isser Achar, an item which carries on it another isser, such as in this case where there's an isser of ma'aser, an isser of temel. Inami another pshat. Havil mitzvah bab avera. What's wrong with eating d'mai because it's an avera? You can't fulfill a mitzvah by doing an avera. The Gemara responds that we find Chachamim applied a kula to an ani. Hashtanami chazle d'chumad rabbanim ba'almu d'roiv ama'aretz ma'asrnei. Not Torah. It's mutter because we follow the roiv. Roiv ama'aretz ama'asr. It's d'chumad rabbanim. So in the case of the Eved, he can be yotzei mitzvah. Achsanya, these were the troops. Chayolos malchi Yisrael amatolam bnei yoris lezoinan lagan aleim meiveyim. So the town would support the Jewish troops. Yisrael mehin, they were Yisraelim are in Kanim. They're like poor people. They're not home, so they as well can be fed produce which is d'mai. Continues the Gemara, Masarishan shenit shumase. So you can take grain which is masarishan, from which the truma smaiser, the 10% belonging to the kohen, has been separated. So now it's perfectly acceptable. It's roy lachila pshita. Of course, why would I think that it's not roy for matzah? What could be wrong with it? The kiva shenut trumasay, once the trumas mais has been separated, chulin avi. Of course, it's chulin. Says the Gemara Litzrich. Apparently, we're speaking that there was some shortcut that took place here. That the maserishan was collected. The Levi came to collect the maserishan when the grain was yet unfinished, was still in its stalk form, p'shibolim, prior to the turning it into grain, into a pile. So at that point, during the stalk stage, it's not yet chayiv in Trumas HaMaasros. So the owner gave the Levi, 10% goes to the Levi, but generally speaking, first you're meant to give Truma Gedolah, which is, let's say, 2% of the entire crop. So you have 100, 2 goes to the Kohen. From the leftover 98, 10%, which is 9.8, goes to the Levi. Of that, the Levi separates 10% and gives Trumas Ma'aser to the Kohen. So Trumas Ma'aser is the Truma of his Ma'aserishan. But before giving the Ma'aserishan to the Levi, he meant to give Truma Gedolah to the Kohen. Now the Levi advanced. He preceded the Kohen. And he came when it was still B'shibolim, before there was any Chiv of Trumas Ma'aser. And he took his portion. Why? He wanted to outsmart the Kohen, so he can get a full 10%. He can get 10% of 100. Otherwise, if the Truma Gedolah is given first, so 2 out of 10 goes to the Kohen, you only have 98 left. And only 9.8 will go to the Levi. So he hurried up, and he came to take his 10% before the Kohen arrived. So the Chiddush here is, we learn from our pasuk, that once that's done, once the Levi received his 10%, of course he has to give 10% of that to the Kohen, that's Trumas Ma'aser, but he's exempt from Truma Gedolah, because he got it when it was still unprocessed, unfinished. However, if the grain is fully processed, which is called a kri, they take the stalks, they thresh it, they take the kernels, pile it up, smooth it out. At that point, it's considered to be a finished product. At that point, there's Chiv Truma Gedolah, and you can't get away without it. First, you have to give the Kohen his 2%, and then follow with Ma'aserishan to the Levi, who will turn around and give 10% of his Ma'aserishan to the Kohen. But at that point, should he hurry up and get his 10% before Truma Gedolah was separated, the Levi has to go ahead and make sure to take Truma Gedolah from his portion and give it to the Kohen. So if he came along before it's been turned into grain, before the process was completed, before Truma Gedolah was chal, the chiv was activated, then the Maaser Rishon given to the Levi is exempt from Truma Gedolah. But should he come a bit later, after the process has been completed, and Truma Gedolah, the Chiyuv of Truma Gedolah has been activated, then he can't get away without it. Should he give the Levi's portion before the Kohen, the Levi has to go turn around and give a part of his 10% to the Kohen as Truma Gedolah. So Gemara would tell us that our Mishnah is speaking where there was no Truma Gedolah separated from the Levi's portion. The Maaser Rishon, the Levi's portion, Shenitl Trumasai, means that the Trumas Meiser, the 10% of the Levi, was given to the Kohen, but Truma Gedolah was never addressed, because he got his portion before the Chiyuv of Truma Gedolah was ever activated. Says the Gemara, apparently we're speaking Shekdima b'Shibal, that he was Magdim, whether it's the owner referring to the Levi, he came along before the Kohen, when it was still b'Shibal, when it was still in its stalk form. So Levi got his 10%, his Maaser Rishon. V'nitlei mena Trumas Maaser. So Trumas Maaser was certainly separated and given to the Kohen. V'loi nitlei mena Truma Gedolah. However, the Truma Gedolah was never separated from that portion. Mishnah tells us, even this type of Maaser Rishon is mutar b'achila. Ukad Ravo, the Amar Ravo, Amar B'Shem Malokish. Maaser Rishon shekdim b'Shibolim. This type of Maaser Rishon, which was taken still in stalk form before Truma Gedolah was addressed, Potter from Truma Gedolah, it's Potter from Truma Gedolah Shnem. V'arei moisim imenu Trumas Hashem Maaser min HaMaaser. So this is referring to the Maaser Rishon. You meant to separate from the Maaser Rishon, Maaser min HaMaaser, a tenth of that, and give it to the Kohen. Maaser min HaMaaser marti lecha. I only instructed you to take 10% of that Maaser. That's it. V'loi Truma Gedolah u Trumas Maaser min HaMaaser. There's no need to take two portions. Truma Gedolah and the Trumas Maaser from that Maaser. Once the Levi got his Maaser Rishon, all he needs to do is separate Trumas Maaser and he's done. If that's the case, even if he did this when it was already a kri, when the grain was fully processed, when it was piled up and smoothed out, and the chiyuvim of Trumas Maaser had arrived, even at that point, if the Levi took his portion before the Kohen, perhaps he should be part of the Truma Gedolah. This is exactly why the pasuk says, Mikol matneisechem tarim. Rashi says the pasuk is speaking about the Leviim. And Mikol matneisechem tarim is coming to be marba, Eskol Trumas Hashem, it's coming to be marba. This type of case, that should the Levi receive his portion, his Maaser Rishon, prior to the Kohen Gadol, I've gotten his portion of Truma Gedolah, then the Levi has to turn around and make up for that and separate Truma Gedolah as well. So, well, Ma Rois, how did you know that we have one pasuk which exempts, right? That's the first pasuk, and one pasuk which obligates. How do you know what's what? Says Gemara very pashut, Hi Idgan, because here we're speaking that the grain has already turned into dagan. It's properly processed grain. So at that point, it became tevel. There's a chiv of truma. You can't get away without giving truma gedolah. It's too late. However, in the first case where it was still shibolim in its stalk form, it was not yet considered dagan. There was no chiv of trumas and masters. At this point, the Levi hurried up and took his portion before the chiv of truma gedolah even arrived. At that point, his portion is exempt from truma gedolah. So that's the Chiddush of our Mishnah. We're speaking about Maaser Rishon, which was accepted by the Levi prior to the dagan stage having arrived. So he got his portion before Truma Gedolah was taken care of. That Maaser Rishon is pater from Truma Gedolah and is mutar l'achila, and is mutar to be used for matzahs mitzvah. Maaser Sheni v'hegdesh sheniftu. So that as well is mutar for matzah. Pshita, of course, why not? If you exchange the Maaser Sheni, the Hegdesh, you paid it, why would it be us? Hoch my skin, apparently we're speaking about Shenostan Sakern, V'lenostan Sachemish. So this fellow did pidyon by giving the Karen, the principal, the value of the actual goods, but didn't add the fifth. So when the Bailam does the pidyon, he has to add a fifth. It's actually a quarter, but it's a fifth of the total amount. So the Chiddush is, V'kamash malon, the Eina Chamish Mak. Although he's mechuyev to add the chaimish, but even before adding the chaimish, the pidyon is effective, and the Matzah Sheni v'Hekdesh is not considered Chula. Of course, he has to add the Chaimish, but it's already Mutter B'Achil. V'Kahanim B'Chala B'Truma. Kahanim can use their Chala portion, the Truma, even though Yisrael can't eat it, but they can use it for their Matzah. Pshita, why not? Why would I think otherwise? Ma'odatim, perhaps I would think. Matzah Shabbat Chol Adam B'Ina. In order for it to be considered proper Matzah, it has to be something kosher for everybody, to go around. The God's Klal Yisrael, everybody can go ahead and eat this Matzah. But something which is only mutter for a kohen perhaps cannot be used for Matzah's mitzvah. Kamash Mulan, the Mishnah informs us, no. Matzah is riba. The word matzah is mentioned several times in the Pesachim. It's coming to Yimar, but even this type of matzah, which is mutter to kohen and not for Yisrael, is kosher l'shem mitzvah. Avaloi b'tevel, the Mishnah gives us now a list of things that cannot be used for matzah's mitzvah. First thing is tevel. Pshita, of course. If it's tevel, if it's asur, of course it can't be used. As Rashi explained earlier, because of the pasuk, which indicates that if it has any other isser, anything other than chametz potential, it can't be used for matzah, or because of mitzvah, b'avera. It says, well, Yitzrich, apparently we're speaking that it's not a proper tevel, but tevel midrabanan. It's only a tevel midrabanan. Shezori ba'atzah sheninakit was planted in a unperforated flower pot, so it's detached from the ground. There's no chiv of truma masa min haTorah. Midrabanan is a chiv. Midrabanan it's considered tevel, and the chiddush here is that, as Rashi explains, it's called mitzvah b'aver because midrabanan may not eat it. Therefore, you can't use it for matzah. V'loy b'maserishin sheloi netul trumasa, nor can you use maserishin whose truma, we're assuming truma here means the trumas ma'aser, was not yet separated, in which case the maserishin is asur b'achila. Pshita, once again, it's pasha, it's asur. It's tzrich, apparently we're speaking shedima b'kri. We're speaking that the maserishin's trumas ma'aser has been separated. Of course, that's been addressed. The problem was that the Levi got his maserishin before the Kohen got his truma gadol. And at what point did the maser, was the maceration given to the Levi? What point did the Levi arrive? Bikri, when it was already a kri, it was already considered grain and chayim and trumas ha'maisus. Now he took his grain before the Kohen arrived. So he went and he gave the 10% the trumas maser to the Kohen, but he never addressed the truma gedolah. And the chiddush here is that it's asur b'achil. Why would I think otherwise? Ma'od perhaps there would be room to suggest. Right, we had a discussion between Rav Papa and Abaye earlier. Rav Papa challenged Abaye. He says, look, once we find that the Torah exempts the chelik of the Levi, the Maserisha, which was taken prior to the Truma Gedolah being given to the Kohen, the Torah exempts that portion from Truma Gedolah, so what difference does it make if he came when it was still in stalk form or it was already a kri? What difference does it make? So perhaps our Papa's argument has validity. And even when the Maserisha was given to the Levi, when it was already a dagon, and he skipped the Truma Gedolah, perhaps even then it's part of Truma Gedolah, Kamash B'lan, Kedushanele. That's what the Mishnah comes to inform us. No, that's not the case. That's not the halacha. Kedushanele. The true halacha is just as Abaye responded to our Papa, and he said, no. Once it's become grain, it's too late. Once the chiv of Truma Gedolah has been chal, has been activated, now you have to take care of Truma Gedolah. And should the Levi accept his portion prior to the Truma Gedolah being addressed, the Levi has to go ahead and not only separate Trumas Maser, 10% of his portion, but also the Truma Gedolah part as well. So the Mishnah speaks about maceration, shaloi netul trumasa, which is not suitable for matzah. We're speaking, of course, the Trumas Maisa was separated, but not the Truma Gedolah. And since we're speaking that he accepted his portion after the Truma Gedolah, the Chiv of Truma Gedolah was already here, he can't eat it unless he dresses that Chiv as well. Finally says the Mishnah, V'loi b'masasheni v'egdish shaloi niftu. You can't use masasheni or hegdish, which were not nifta. Pshita, of course, then it's also. Lo ilum the niftu. Apparently we're speaking that there was a pidyon. Umayli niftu, what does the Mishnah mean? Shaloi niftu kil chasen, wasn't properly redeemed. Maser Sheni shepedoyel al gabas simon, for instance, Maser Sheni which was redeemed using a slug. So it's just some type of coin which doesn't have a form on it, doesn't have a design. The Rahman Amar Torah requires a design. V'tzarta kesef. You need to use a davar sheyesh leitzura. Only a coin which has a form on it can be used for the pidyon Maser Sheni. So he was paid but didn't do properly. It's not considered a proper pidyon, and it's asur. V'hegdish. What is the example by hegdish? Shechil al gabi karka. Sure, he did pidyon, but he used karka, which is unsuitable for pidyon. The Rahman Amar b'nosana kesef v'komli. The only thing you can use for pidyon, hegdish, is money. And therefore, this fellow who did pidyon in a manner which is not considered proper, he didn't conform to all the guide, all the halachas, all the specifications, his Maser Sheni, his hegdish, is considered asur and can't be used for the matzahs mitzvah. So in conclusion, I'm going to give us a checklist of things which can be used for matzahs mitzvah, Demai, Maser Rishon, Shittul Turmasei, Maser Sheni, hegdish, and Nivdu. And then we'll explain that there's a chiddush in each one. Demai, how is that kosher? Because generally speaking, it can be fed to an ani. Even an ordinary person really has access to Demai. Should he decide to become an ani and make his nechasim hefker? In any case, we see that the whole concept is a chumrah d'rabbanan, which was suspended in the case of an ani. So since it's a chumrah d'rabbanan, because Minat Torah really roiv ha'ma'aretz do their ma'aseh properly, therefore, says Rashi, but the Eved, should any person go ahead and consume matzah made of Demai, he was Yosef's mitzvah. Maser Rishon Shenita Trumasei is speaking about the Trumas Maisa, which was separated, but not the Truma Gedolah, because we're speaking that the Maser Rishon was separated Bishi Bolam, when it was still in its stalk form prior to the separation of Truma Gedolah, when from a pasuk. In this case, it's Pater from Truma Gedolah. Maser Sheni v'Hegdish are speaking that there was a pidyon, but he hadn't added the fifth, the Chaimish. The Chiddush is the Chaimish is not Ma'akev, and at this point it's already Roi Lachila. We have a blacklist of things which are not to be used for matzahs mitzvah. We are not yotzi. If you make matzah from tevel, from Maser Rishon, shaloi nito trumasei, and Maser Sheni v'hegdish shaloi niftu. The Gemara explains the chiddush in each one as follows. Tevel was speaking about tevel d'rabbanan. It grew in an otzitz, she'ein nakov, so even though it's only d'rabbanan, it can't be used for matzah. Maser Rishon shenito trumasei is speaking where the Levi took his portion prior to the arrival of the kohen, but the problem was it was already kri. It was already considered grain, in which case the Truma Gedolah has to be addressed. So although the Maser Rishon is now free of its Trumas Maser, which was separated and given to the kohen, but until the Truma Gedolah is addressed as well, this Maser Rishon is asur. Maser Sheni was nifta, but on a nasimoin, a coin which doesn't have a form. Hegdish was in schal karka, which is an improper pidyon, improper chilul, in which case the hegdish and Maser Sheni are still considered asur b'achila for a zar. Continues the Gemara, Tan Rabban. Now we're going to go into the reason, the basis for the invalidation of all these different isurim for the sake of matzah. Why? Why are they not qualified? Why can't they be used for matzah? Yochel yoytze adam yechavase, but tevel shloi nitkan. Perhaps a person could be yoytze's matzah using tevel which wasn't fixed. So what do you mean tevel which wasn't fixed? Called tevel nami holoi nitka. Every tevel is not fixed. What do you mean tevel which isn't fixed? That is the very definition of tevel. The truma master obligation was not addressed. Ela betevel shloi nitkan called tzorchai. The chiddush the Bryce is even tevel which was partially addressed, but not properly, not completely fixed. For instance, Shenit kom mimena Truma Gedolah was separated, v'lo nitn mimena Trumas Masa, but not Trumas Masa. Or Maser Rishon, v'lo Maser Sheni. Afilu Maser Ani, even if you haven't yet separated Maser Ani, that's all. All you left to take care of is the Maser Ani, which goes to the Ani. Minayin. How do we know that you can't use this for matzahs mitzvah tamad loima? The pasuk says, "Lo yisaychel olav chametz." And the pasuk continues, Shivas yomim toichel olav matzis. What does this teach us? Mishi surei mishum bal toichel olav chametz. Only something which carries a potential isser of chametz, that can be used to produce matzah. Yotzazeh, as opposed to this, She'eni surei mishum bal toichel chametz. The isur here is not on account of chametz. Rather, elo mishum bal toichel tevel. The isur is tevel not chametz. So it can't be used for matzah. Matzah means something which carries potential chametz. So matzah means that thing. If it's not chametz, it's matzah. So matzah is the flip side of chametz. But something which is asur regardless, it's tevel. It won't get isur chametz, that can't be used for matzah. Says the Gemara, 1 second. V'isura the chametz leichan azla. Fine, you're right, this is tevel as well. But what happens to the isur chametz? It starts off being tevel, but then if you go ahead and form it into a dough, you can make bread from it and make chametz. So it has chametz potential. Amar Rav Sheshes, Hamani Rav Shimoni. This brisa reflects the shita of Rabbi Shimon, the Amar Eid Isser Chal Isser. One Isser can't land on top of the other. You can't bundle up Isser. So once something has a pre-existing Isser, in this case it's Tevel, it cannot turn into, it can't have the Isser Chametz. So this thing now is free of Isser Chametz, and therefore can't be used for matzah. The Sanya, Reb Shimon Aimer. Ha'ichl nevela b'yom kippurim. Potter. The person should eat a nevela, b'shoigig, on Yom Kippur. So he has Isser nevela, but he does not have the Isser of Yom Kippur. He's potter from chatas. Why? Explains Rashi. Let's see Rashi inside. Up on top. Ha'ichl nevela b'yom kippurim, shoigig. Potter min chatas. Says Rashi, the in Isser yoim ha'kippurim, chal al Isser nevela. The Isser of Yom Kippur doesn't land on the Isser nevela, which was pre-existing, which preceded Yom Kippur. So once it's Asr, we can't add another Isr. Says Rashi, let's say it became a Nevela today, so Yom Kippur preceded Nevela. What about that case? Afilu hachi, even so, says Rashi, it won't work. Yom Kippur won't arrive, won't be chal. Why? Because Afilu hachi, he says, Surah koidim Yom Kippurim, Mishur Evim Nachai. A live animal is Asr, not on account of Nevela, but on account of Evim Nachai. So that Isser preceded Yom Kippur. That would prevent the Isser of Yom Kippur from arriving onto this piece of meat. So if a person should eat it, he's potter from the chatas of Yom Kippur. So Reb Shimon holds, one Isser cannot be combined with another Isser. Therefore, in the case of Tevel, it can't become chametz. It can't have the Isser of chametz. And therefore, it can't be used for matzah. Ravina Amar Afilu Teim Rabbanan. This brisa could even be in line with Rabbanan, who generally speaking hold that, one Isser could be chal on another Isser. So over here, when you have Tevel, certainly it can have an Isser chametz, which arrives later, that's okay. But it still won't be roi for matzah. Why? Because the pasuk says that matzah is a flip side of chametz, right? Lo yiseichel of chametz, shivas yom teichel of matzahs. Says Ravina, the Chacham are going to darshan as follows: Mishi isurei mishum bal teichel chametz bilvad. What type of material can you use for matzah? Only something which has the isser, strictly the isser of chametz, no more. Yotza zeh, as opposed to the tevel, which has two isur. She'eni isurei mishum bal teichel chametz bilvad. Doesn't only have one isser of chametz. Ela af mishum bal teichel tevel, also has the isser of tevel. So since it has an additional isra as well, it can't be used for matzah. Matzah needs to be the opposite of chametz. It's not chametz, it's matzah, but if it has another identity to it, it's chametz and tevel, etc., that can be used for matzah. Midi bilvat ksiv? Does then the Torah say that only chametz? Something which only has chametz and nothing else, only that's suitable for matzah? The Torah doesn't say that. Something which has the potential of Isra Chametz can be used for matzah. So, according to Rabbanan, if this tevel can become chametz, it should be right for matzah as well. So the Gemara doesn't like Ravina's pshat ela machvar to Rav Sheshes. Apparently, the correct approach is Rav Sheshes' approach, that this brisa is in line with Rabbi Shimon. This brisa that says that only something which has chametz potential can be used for matzah, as opposed to the thing which is tevel, which doesn't have chametz potential and therefore can't be used for matzah, apparently is in line with Reb Shimon, who holds that ein isser chal isser. So once something is already usser on account of tevel, it can't have the additional isser of chametz, and therefore this tevel can't be used for matzah. because the Torah clearly says only something which carries chametz potential can become matzah. And this thing does not have that potential. But according to the Shitas Chachamim, you can't apply this limit, because according to them, this won't be sufficient grounds to disqualify tevel from being used for matzah, because even tevel can turn into chametz, can have the isur chametz. They hold that tevel can get additional isurim as well. So according to them, tevel won't be disqualified, won't be exempted on account of this pasuk. Won't be disqualified from being used for matzah. What then? So according to Chachamim, all these things which are asur b'achila, why can't they be used for matzah? So Rashi explained for us, because they hold the concern is mitzvah b'avera. One can't fulfill a mitzvah by way of an avera, and therefore something which is asur b'achila cannot be used for matzah as mitzvah. Okay, time for a brief chazara. The Mishnah began with a list of things that can be used for matzah's mitzvah. The 5 primary grains: wheat, barley, rye, spelt, oats. And the Gemara tells us the key is, the formula is, something which has chametz potential can be used for matzah. We learn this from the pasuk, which connects matzah to chametz, as opposed to rice and millet, which don't really have true chametz potential. They get spoiled, they don't become proper chametz, and therefore it can be used for matzah. As opposed to Rabbi Yehuda Kessler holds that, even oires v'doichen are considered to be proper chametz and can be used for matzah as well. And of course, the halacha follows the shittas chachamim. So rice technically does not have true chametz potential. In fact, the Rambam says you can eat rice on Pesach, and the Sfardim do so. Ashkenazim are machmir the shita. It says that should eat because it gives the appearance perhaps of grains, and therefore you refrain from eating rice. But technically speaking, in our Torah, there's no isser for rice and millet, because they can't become chametz. And the more discussed dough made from mei peros, which don't have the chametz potential. Mei peros ein machmitzin, they can't produce proper chametz. And then we proceed with a list of things which a person can use for matzah, and of things which are not suitable. Where Yotze using Demai, the Gemara says because it's only Chomad Rabbanan. Maaser Rishon, whose Truma Gedolah was not separated, because the Maaser Rishon here was taken by the Levi before the Chiyuv of Truma Gedolah arrived. Maaser Sheni Behegdish, that were Nifta, even though the Chaimish was not yet given. We are not Yotze using Tevel, even Tevel Rabbanan. Maaser Rishon, whose Truma Gedolah was not separated, and we're speaking that the Maaser Rishon was taken when it was already in its grain form. Maaser Sheni Shenifta, but on an Asimoin, which doesn't have a form. Hegdish, which was in schal on karka, which is not a correct way of being machal hegdish, and therefore it's considered to be asur. And in truth, what is the reason why something which has an isser can't be used for matzah? So it depends. According to Reb Shimon, it's based on the pasuk which says that only something which carries a potential isser karis can be used for matzah. Something which carries a potential isur chimutz, as opposed to something which is already asur, tevel, etc. Because once it's asur, it can't have the isur chametz, and therefore it can be used for matzah, which is merely a flip side of chametz. If it can't become chametz, it can't have the isur chametz, it can't have the hechsher of matzah. That's according to Reb Shimon. According to Chachamim, Rashi explained for us, it's based on the general formula that one is not yotze mitzvah if this mitzvah is a mitzvah ba'avera.